As I was scoping out the restaurant for a client I was supposed to meet, I spotted my ex-wife Susan. She was chilling with a kinda chubby, middle-aged dude who used to be fit, but it looked like he let himself go over time. Susan was all cozy next to him, basking in his wealth or whatever. As I stood in the entrance and watched them, a bunch of memories from our past together came rushing back. It's been 3 years since we split up. Man, all these feelings came rushing back like it was just yesterday. That's how I ended up where I am today, soul-searching instead of chilling next to her. But, you'll see, her wish actually came true. It all started when I had to go to Albany for a meeting with a client. I thought I'd stay overnight to avoid a long drive back. But, just an hour into my trip, my client called to say his car got smashed up. He was fine, thankfully. He felt bad for canceling last minute, but I reassured him it was all good. Hey, we got a problem. We can move the meeting to another time. Honestly, I wasn't ready for an extra 2 hours of driving. I promised I'd try my best and then head home to have a nice dinner with my wife. I wanted to surprise her. About an hour and a half later, I finally pulled up to my street. The first thing I saw was 3 unfamiliar cars parked in the driveway. My wife usually has her friends over when I'm out of town, so it didn't really bother me. I parked my car. So, I was walking down the street, minding my own business, and when I got home, I thought everything was cool. But then, I saw 4 sets of clothes on the living room floor and I was like, what the heck? And just as I was trying to process that, I heard my wife scream. But it wasn't a cry for help kind of scream, it was more like a hit me harder kind of scream, if you catch my drift. My heart dropped when I realized she was getting it on with someone else. My whole world came crashing down. I didn't want to, but I knew I had to go upstairs. As I made my way up, I heard my wife let out a primal scream. I sneaked a peek around my bedroom door and spotted 3 dudes I didn't recognize. 2 of them were strangers, but the third was her work boss Jeff Davis. They had my wife in the most unexpected place, and I never really vibed with Jeff. Now I see why. Sue, you're amazing and I appreciate you helping me out with my favorite clients. They clearly dig your hot bod as much as you enjoy flaunting it. Jeff was basically pimping out my wife to his business pals. All 3 of them started treating my wife like their own personal plaything. They gave her a sex toy and went all out, calling her all kinds of nasty names. She seemed to get even wilder from their treatment, and they had her going even more. I've never seen her act like this in the 10 years we've been married. Even though I thought Jeff's choice of toy was perfect for her, I quietly stepped back. They were so into it that they didn't even notice me. I quietly went downstairs and into my office. I found my digital video camera with some battery left, and it was an old one. I found a holiday tape in there with some room left, so I decided not to make a big movie, just to document my wife's actions for my lawyer. I snuck back to my bedroom door and started recording the video. I got some good shots of my wife's face and everyone else. I only recorded for about 5 to 10 minutes because that's all I could take. Some guys might find this hot and exciting, but not me. The whole thing just made me sad. I felt betrayed and defeated as I watched my wife become a for other men. It was almost too much for me to handle, so I went downstairs. To chill out and think straight, I went into my office and grabbed my gun from the safe. I took the safety off, not that I'm a violent person, but I was ready to pop off a few shots if they acted dumb. Then I went into the living room and snatched all the car keys and wallets from the dude's pants scattered on my floor. I went outside and let the air out of all their tires, even Sue's car. When I came back in, I had a grin on my face that would make the Grinch jealous. I started scheming up a great plan. I knew it would work if Sue brought her cell phone. I saw it on the bedside table in the bedroom while I was recording a video. I got my camera ready, went behind the stairs, and quickly called Sue's cell phone. It rang a few times and I ended up on her voicemail. She knew I would call around this time, so I kept calling back every 2 minutes until she finally picked up. She must have told everyone to be quiet because you could hear a pin drop in the house. "Hey Bobby, how's Albany?" Sue asked, out of breath. I could also hear the silence. "The guys in the room were laughing at you, you look out of breath. Are you okay?" I asked with fake concern in my voice. "Yeah, I had to run up the stairs to the bedroom to answer my phone," she quickly covered herself. Well, my client canceled the meeting and I'll be home in a few minutes. I was wondering if you wanted to go out for dinner, I asked casually, but inside I was more nervous than I've ever been in my life. Are you heading home now? She asked nervously. Sounds good, I just need. Get ready, baby. See you, she said quickly before hanging up. I chuckled to myself because I knew what was about to go down. Just a minute later, 4 naked people started coming down my stairs and into the living room. The guys scrambled to get dressed super fast, while Sue quickly put on her clothes and straightened up. They all bolted out at the same time, with Sue throwing on some shoes and a jacket as she followed them to the door. She peeked outside, hoping they would leave before she had to go out. Man, if she wasn't so excited that she saw my car parked on the street in front of our house, all the guys started yelling at her at once. She went out onto the porch to hear what they were saying, and right then, I slammed the front door and locked it. My wife caught a glimpse of my face as I shut the door and tried to talk to me through the side window, sounding all desperate. But I was done talking. The other guys all came back to my porch and started banging on my front door. Right away I could tell they were after our wallets and keys. I dialed 911 and told them some people were trying to break into my place. The dispatcher said a neighbor had already called in. I gave her my name and address, and within 2 minutes a cop was at my door. I waited for them to question my wife, then I went out and told the officers those guys had assaulted my wife and I wanted them arrested. The men freaked out when they heard this and right away, I started yelling that she invited me and she was into it. I didn't force myself on anyone, she wanted it too. Everyone, including me, looked at Sue, waiting for her to speak. She lowered her eyes and wouldn't look at me, then quietly said she invited those guys over, had sex with them, and no one forced her. She did it willingly. The guys all looked relieved that they weren't gonna get charged with rape. Just then, 2 more cop cars showed up at my request and they started jotting down everyone's names. So basically, the top cop told me that if my wife brought these dudes over to our place and they're all legal adults, there's not much they can do for me. He recommended counseling or something. And he said this while giving my wife the stink eye like she's trash. I told the cops to get a cab for them and made it clear that Mrs. Thomas ain't coming back that night. One of the guys called a cab because they found out all their tires were flat. And then they tried to blame me for taking their stuff. Man, I had my wallet and keys, but when the cops asked me about it, I acted like I had no clue what they were talking about. I just turned around and walked back to the porch. Sue stayed with them until the taxi showed up. I was just standing there on the porch, with pure rage in my eyes. My wife tried to come up on the porch and talk to me, which was pretty gutsy considering how mad I was and that I had a gun on me. I just couldn't believe it. I cut her off before she could even say anything. You really hurt me, Bobby. I'll never forgive you for what you did. Jeff called you a jerk and I think that's spot on. From now on, I'm gonna call you jerk and never use your real name again. If you ever need to talk to me again, do it through Tad. With that last comment, I went into the house and locked the door, leaving her standing there. She ran back to the group crying, and Jeff tried to hug her. She pushed him away, and for some reason, that made me feel a little better. My good mood quickly faded when I returned to my bedroom. The whole room smelled of sex, and for some reason, that just set me off. I went on a rampage in the room, grabbed the mattress and chucked it out on the front lawn. Then I went to the garage, grabbed my toolbox, and started taking apart the bed, throwing the pieces out on the front lawn with the mattress. I went back to the bedroom, picked up Sue's cell phone from the floor, and checked out her numbers and messages. Of course, she had some nasty emails, photos, and even a few videos of some guys I had never seen before ing her all over. But based on the pictures, she knew them pretty well. I started looking for more dirt. Man, she had so many bags for her clothes, and I couldn't help but chuckle at myself. I used to be so attentive to her, but those days are long gone. I lugged all the boxes from our bedroom downstairs and dumped out the contents into separate piles on the front lawn. Then I tackled all her extra stuff in the guest room, and that's where I got my next surprise. I hauled all the dresser drawers from the guest room outside, just like I did with Sway's bedroom stuff. But the last bottom drawer was stuck and wouldn't budge. I was so annoyed, so I just left it there. So, I was yanking on my dresser drawer and I heard a loud crack. Finally got the drawer out and tried to open it carefully. It popped right open and I saw what was causing the issue. There were like 7 or 8 DVDs jammed underneath. I ended up breaking one of the cases, but the disc was fine. My heart dropped when I looked at the DVDs. I felt even worse. As I headed downstairs, I checked out the titles on the discs and it didn't make me happy. Went into the living room and put them down. Alright, so basically everything on the shelves was up for review. First off, Sue was with her best friend Sarah at Sarah's house. Sue used to help out at Sarah's Avon parties every Tuesday and Thursday, or at least that's what I thought. Turns out, they were actually hooking up with some guys at Sarah's house for hours on end. Sue and Sarah were getting it on in all sorts of ways with multiple partners. I started crying, but then I saw the last 2 discs. The first one showed how Sue had her own tennis instructor during lessons that I was paying for. She would go there every Saturday and always come back too tired to do anything. Man, last Saturday night was wild. I finally found out why that second disc had footage of Sue getting it on with Jeff, her boss, on the boardroom table at work. And get this, Jeff's boss, Bill Evans, was in on it too. Bill was a big shot in town, always in the newspaper for some event or another. I couldn't believe my eyes as he did his charitable work on my wife. So, I grabbed a big envelope and stuffed in a cell phone, disc, and cassette tape that I had recorded earlier. I planned to hand the whole thing over to my lawyer and best friend. Man, me and Ted go way back. He's always been one of the few people I can really trust. I was looking at Sue's computer the other day and decided to make copies of everything on there, files, emails, photos, videos, you name it. It took me about an hour to copy it all over. Then I sat down and started going through it all. And let me tell you, there were some pretty wild videos on there of her getting it on, just like the ones on those CDs. I found some pictures of her on those sketchy adult websites, then I snooped through her emails from the past 6 months. She tried to hide them under some random file name, but I still found them. Turns out, she had messages from Jeff and a bunch of other dudes. Most of the emails were between her and Sarah, and they were still going back and forth just last week. But one email I read really messed me up, it almost made me reach for my gun. But then I realized she wasn't even worth it. I had to stay strong. The only other email that got to me like this was from Sue to Sarah. Sarah was like, "Why don't you just dump him and be single again?" She even asked Sue to lay out exactly what she's looking for in a future hubby. Well, Sue's response was something like, "Sarah, I am so over him. Bobby may be loyal, but he's also dumb as a rock. I swear, he's gonna figure out my double life soon enough. It's not that he's totally clueless, it's just that love makes you blind. Lately, he's been getting kinda lazy and his gut is getting bigger by the day. Sometimes, it's just too much. It's tough to find him attractive when I see the other guys we have. Plus, I can't stand beards and mustaches, they make him look, I don't know, kinda gross. I used to really love him, but the thrill of the past few years is too good to give up. His best friend is a lawyer, and if he gets involved, it could cause some problems. Jeff and Bill at work are hinting at promotions and raises, and they're not just talking about their careers if you catch my drift. I also want a house and a car at least. If I play my cards right, I can get it all. Yo, I'm getting a bit of alimony every month now. Can't wait for our party on Tuesday, I'll be there if my tennis injury doesn't kill me first. Tony is a beast, gotta make sure I get that video from last Thursday. It was my first time working out with so many dudes at once. As for my dream man, he's gotta be rich, faithful, easy to handle, and a bit clueless. He better be ready to kiss my ass whenever I want and still ask which one. I don't care about the bedroom stuff as long as it's not too crazy. I've got money, I laugh, I can buy anything I want outside of the house. Sometimes it feels like it's too easy, damn Bobby is home now so I have to go. See you on Tuesday, call me Sue. My best friend. I've read this letter so many times that I almost have it memorized. The words are disgusting and the last few years have really hurt me more than I can put into words. Was this how she really felt about me? Was I so blinded by love that she was cheating on me for over 2 years? After that, I went to bed and fell asleep on the couch. I woke up early. So, I had a rough night and couldn't sleep because of work stress. I ended up calling in sick and decided to reach out to my buddy Ted, who also happens to be my lawyer. When I called his office, his secretary Mary answered. I've known her for ages, just like Ted. I told Mary the first needed to see Ted urgently, but she said he was tied up in court all day. I asked her to have him meet me in his office in an hour, and if he gives her any trouble, just drop Tammy Brown's name, that should get his attention. Hey, be ready in an hour, I told her and hung up before she could respond. I started getting dressed when my phone rang. I checked the number because I really didn't want to talk to Sue. It was an unknown number, so I answered just in case it was Ted calling back. Hello, Mr. Thomas, this is Bill Evans from Susan's office. I'd like to talk to you about what went down at your place last night. If you're up for it, come by my office today so we can clear things up. Alright, so here's the deal. I wasn't sure if he knew that I had a video of him with my wife at his job, but I could tell he was stressing about losing two of Jeff Davis's top clients, as well as my wife and Jeff being important to him. He definitely didn't want to lose his valuable employees. Plus, he was freaking out about bad press for his company and his own reputation. I told him, Mr. Evans, I've got a big meeting this morning, but I'll hit you up on this number before noon to sort something out for today. Just to ease his mind, you know. I replied with a calm tone, acting like he was making sense. Boy, was he in for a shock. As I left, I could still see that bizarre yard sale with the broken bed and all of Sue's clothes still out. One of my old neighbors waved at me with a funny look on his face. I knew I was going to be the talk of the town, or a Monday wonder, as they say in the news biz. It was a quiet neighborhood. I went to the city center, grabbed a bite to eat, scarfed down some food, and then headed straight to Mary at Ted's office. Made me a coffee with lots of cream, no sugar. We've known each other for ages, damn. Bobby, I have no idea what you did to Ted, but when I mentioned his name he said to cancel all appointments for today. I could really use a month off. Oh, and who the hell is Tammy Brown? Mary said jokingly, you'll have to ask Ted. By the way, where is he? I asked. She said he'd be here soon, he needed to reschedule his meeting with the judge for court today. Yo, so I was just about to hear some gossip when he walked in the room, damn. Bobby Tammy Brown, you must be in some deep shit for dropping that name. Come to the office, let's chat. Mary, don't drag me into any drama right now. Tad was talking a mile a minute. I grabbed my coffee as he shut the door so we could talk. I spilled about last night's events and spilled the tea on Sue's new lifestyle. Then I handed him an envelope of evidence. Finally, he spoke, listened to my story, and never interrupted. I could see the gears turning in his head as he remembered what happened last night. I mentioned Bill Evans wanting to meet today, and then Bobby, as they say, cut to the chase. I've known you for ages, and I can see you're torn up. Any chance you and Sue will patch things up, he asked me. Ted, if you saw those videos and read those emails about Katie, your wife, you'd dump her in a second. I want out, but I also. Yo, I'm ready to wreck some shit. I ain't gonna go down without a fight. I told him, alright, first we're gonna sue Tony and the Ace Tennis Club. Can't mess with Sarah though, she's just a homie who plays with Sue. Sue's company is fair game though. Secondly, I'm gonna sue those two clients who were at your crib and their companies. We're also coming for Jeff Davis, Bill Evans, and their company. He warned me that things might get ugly before they get better, but I don't give a damn. I'll stand my ground no matter what. I'm gonna hit the streets and give these people a taste of their own medicine for screwing me over through Sue, I said angrily. Alright, Bobby, remind me what Bill Evans was after and we'll take it from there, Ted told me. We talked about a few different ideas, but I was most keen on the idea of launching a direct attack on Sue's company. I had some incriminating video footage of Davis Evans and Sue in their boardroom up my sleeve. Ted mentioned that as Sue's bosses, they had control over her position and it could get serious. Man, I love the idea of going to jail. Tad mentioned that once Bill Evans knew what dirt we had on him, he'd start acting different and probably try to pay us off. I straight up told him if it's anything less than $2 million, he can forget it. I said, come on, Ted, let's make it $2.5 million. I know how much lawyers cost, man. We had a good laugh about it. Come by tonight at 7 o'clock. Katie's gonna whip up a tasty dinner for us tonight. I reckon you could use a break from home, he said. I rang Bill Evans back and set up a meeting for 2 p.m. right away. Just then, Mary popped her head into the office. "Ted, they're calling you online." "One SEC, she told him. "Mary, I already told you no calls," he said, getting really annoyed. "Sorry, Ted, but it's Susan. She wants to talk to you and I thought you might want to pick up," Mary persisted. "Sorry, Mary, it's gonna be a long day and it's only just begun." "Does she know Bobby's here?" he asked. "Not that I know of," she replied. "I know Ted," she argued. "Tell her I'll talk to her in a minute," he said quietly as Mary hurried out to the reception area. "Well, I bet she's already figured out that her cell phone, computer, and all her DVDs are missing. I bet she was furious that I threw all her stuff on the front lawn along with our bed." I told him, "Wow, you really had a hectic evening. Let me handle this and don't interrupt the conversation. As your lawyer, I need to clear up a few things right now," he hinted, pressing the connection. I overheard Susan talking to Tad on the phone, and it sounded like she was not happy with him. She was telling him that Bobby is a good guy and her friend, and she expected Susan to have his back instead of betraying him. Susan seemed to be making excuses and not in the mood, but she agreed to represent Bobby because he has strong arguments. She warned Tad that it won't be easy, but she promised to talk to him about it. It seems like Susan let down a man who always had her back. "Girl, that man was loyal to you and loved you like crazy. He couldn't care less about your opinion. I suggest you find yourself a top-notch lawyer because you're gonna need one." "Yep, Bill Evans scheduled a meeting at 1:40, but I don't think you should be there. Listen up, Sue, if you even try to sneak a peek through the office door, I'll tell Bobby to bounce and it's gonna be chaos. Just chill out and keep it together today. I heard he threw your stuff on the lawn, but remember, what goes around comes around. If some random dude comes into your room and starts tossing your things onto the lawn, I mean, it's a miracle he didn't start shooting people last night. Oh, and yeah, he had a gun on him, but he claimed it was for self-defense. The cops said he thought you got raped or something. I don't know, if it was my daughter, he'd be locked up by now. He seemed pretty pissed off, to be fair. And if your computer, phone, or anything else is missing, you'll have to ask him about it. So, the other owner of the house might have just dumped all your stuff on the lawn, and someone probably snatched it all up. I've finished all the paperwork for the house escrow, and you both have equal rights to the place. How you want to use those rights is up to you. I think you should stay put and let Bobby stay in the house until everything's sorted. It's probably not a good idea for you to be under the same roof as him right now. Trust me, Sue. I feel like punching you in the face right now, so just back off and stick with Sarah. I'll contact you later. Get your lawyer to call me. Crying won't work on me, Sue. Besides being his lawyer, I'm also his friend. Your tears don't affect me. I can be really mean when I want to, and this seems like the right moment. I used to like and respect you, but not anymore. You're about to see a side of me that only my enemies see. You won't like it, so just stay away, okay? He's done with you, so don't even think about leaving your job right now. Bye, Tad said, looking at me. I think you caught most of what he said, he told me sadly. Yeah, I just wish I could see her in person again and tell her how I truly feel. But I don't think I'm ready to deal with the pain of seeing her again, at least not now. I confessed to my buddy. Hey, Bobby, do me a favor, he quickly said, switching to a more positive and hopeful mood. Get those videos for me. Tad asked me to grab the tapes from the envelope, one of Tony at the tennis club, and one of Sue with Mr. Davis and Mr. Evans in her office. I handed them over, and he told me to ask Mary to grab lunch with me. I gave him a weird look, and he quickly said that he should probably watch the tapes himself so nobody gets upset before our meeting at 2 p.m. He doesn't think it's a good idea for us to watch them now and doesn't want anyone getting mad before we meet. After bumping into Bill Evans, I could tell he was on point. I thanked him and shared the good news with Mary. She suggested we go somewhere fancy and have Ted foot the bill. I chuckled and we both left the building. Mary was a fantastic dinner partner and managed to make me forget all my woes for the next hour. When we got back, we heard Tad shouting as we entered the office. We found him in a jolly mood, doing a victory dance at his desk. This recording is amazing, Bobby. I can't believe it, he said to me. I must have looked a mix of amused and sad, and I think he noticed. I finally get why you're upset, Bobby. I'm so sorry I didn't acknowledge those videos. I know Sue really did a number on you. I was just so hyped about what I discovered. He confessed to me, Bobby. Come over here, I need you to check something out for me. Ted said to me as I followed his lead and stood right behind him so I could see what he was looking at. Did you watch the whole tape that Tony made at the tennis club with Sue? He asked me. Nah, I only saw a few of them last night. I tried to watch all of it without barfing or bailing. Yo, so I straight up told him, I got a surprise for you, right before Tony and Sue walked in and started attracting a small crowd in the men's locker room at the tennis club. I hate to say it, but she let the other dudes watch while Tony did his thing. I ain't telling you this to piss you off or make you sad, but because of this dude Tad over here. He showed me a video on his computer of this old man in a towel. He had long gray hair and a mustache like a walrus. He asked me if I recognized him. Tad put the video on and I could see him showing off his big manhood that any guy would be proud of. The only issue was that he went up to my wife and blanked her, then she was surrounded by 5 more guys waiting for their turn to chat with Sue. I have no clue who this guy is, but I'm guessing you do. I smartly replied, Bobby, this is for our meeting today at the tennis club at 4 p.m. Tad was pumped and he filled me in on why. I grinned when he shared his plan with me. Besides being a buddy, Tad was a top-notch lawyer. I was relieved to have him in my corner this time. We bounced from his office to make our way downtown for our 2 o'clock meeting with Bill Evans. We brought along a portable DVD player, some pics we had printed out earlier, and some legal envelopes. We cruised into Sue's building and made a beeline for Bill's office on the top floor. Sue's digs were on the floor below. We chilled in the waiting area. Before we got called into Mr. Evans's office, I had this weird feeling that someone was staring at me. I glanced down the hallway and caught a glimpse of a woman disappearing around the corner when she saw me looking at her. I tried to figure out who it was, but I was just relieved I didn't have to deal with her that day. We both walked into Bill's office, which was decked out with fancy furniture. Every inch of the walls was covered with plaques, awards, and photos of famous people with Bill Evans. His office was pretty nice, and the first thing that crossed my mind was, I was wondering if he had Sue in that room, and that made me start to really dislike Mr. Evans even more. I introduced Tad and did all the talking, saying, Hello Mr. Evans, this is my friend Ted Worth and he'll be at the meeting you called today. I told Bill as we all shook hands. Mr. Thomas Bob, I thought this was going to be a private little meeting between you and me. Mr. Evans asked me, well, I thought I'd bring Tad with me. Whatever you have to say to me, you can say to him. I didn't bring it up for nothing. Mr. Evans was having a chat with Tad, but then he decided to include me in the conversation and completely ignore Tad. This made Tad happy, knowing what was about to happen. I waited for Mr. Evans to finish before bursting his bubble. Bill asked if he could call me Bob, which I was totally cool with. I even mentioned it would be nice to have Jeff Davis join the meeting too. I wasn't sure if it was possible, but it would be relevant for him as well. Mr. Evans thought for a moment, then buzzed Julie on the intercom. Tell Jeff I need him in my office right now, he instructed. Hey, drop everything and get over here ASAP, Jeff's gonna be here any minute. By the way, I'm really sorry about all the drama Jeff and Sue have caused in your life. I know last night must have been rough, but if we team up, we might be able to sort this out and help everyone involved, Bill said optimistically. What do you mean, Mr. Evans? I asked, waiting for Jeff to show up. I actually really like your wife, Sue, Bill started to say, but got cut off as Jeff walked in the door and froze in his tracks. Trax was ready to bounce, but Bill made him plop his butt in a seat. He sat there with a sour face, not even glancing my way. Bob, I just wanted to tell you that I really cared for Sue, like a daughter, he started saying before Tad cut him off, so you're into incest too, Mr. Evans. Tad's question caught him off guard. I couldn't help but chuckle because I knew what Tad was getting at. What do you mean by that? Do I look like I'm into incest? He asked Tad, confused. Alright, check this out. You know how they say a picture speaks volumes? Well, Ted said as he placed the DVD player on Bill's desk, these stills are from the video you're about to see in a minute. Tad handed them to Jeff, not Bill. Jeff's eyes nearly popped out of his head and he quickly passed them over to Bill. The photos clearly showed Bill and Jeff with my wife, no mistaking it. I think Bill even recognized his own boardroom table where he and Sue used to, you know. "Hey Jeff, are you seriously gonna tell me you were dumb enough to record that on video and hand out copies?" Bill asked, almost speechless. It was obvious that Jeff had no response and was totally speechless. "Well, Mr. Evans, here's how it's gonna go down. Oh, by the way, I'm Bobby's lawyer and friend, so let me tell you what we want and how we want you to deal with it," Tad told the shocked crowd. I loved every second of it. First off, Sue keeps her job, no questions asked. Bobby feels like she'll need a job and she seems. He's cool with everyone here, told Bill with a wink. Mr. Davis is out, Sue stays, but this guy Jeff gotta go, Tad said to Bill, pointing at Jeff looking shocked. Also, make us a fair offer that doesn't insult us, we'll only consider your first one and give a yes or no within 5 days. We'll take you to court in less than 2 months, maybe sooner if needed. Tad hit play before they could say anything and turned on the screen. So, Bill was able to see the video recording of both guys claiming my wife as their own in their office. Jeff didn't need to watch because he was the one recording, but Bill watched with his jaw dropped. I could tell he was thinking hard, trying to figure out how to save his business, reputation, family, and most importantly, his money. I had a feeling something big was about to go down. Jeff said, "When these guys leave, we're gonna have a serious talk about where you're headed. Hey, about your job here, I'll chat with my lawyer and see if we can agree on a number that will make you somewhat satisfied. You both know this could really mess up our business if word gets out before my proposal is looked at," Bill said, thinking out loud. "Don't stress, Mr. Evans, we'll keep your secret until we see a real proposal from you. But I wouldn't hurry to fire Mr. Davis just yet. He might have some extra copies of that videotape as leverage. If we don't play ball, you and Mr. Davis can figure it out. Listen up, both of you. You could end up in jail for hooking up with a coworker, which would mess up your job and chances for a promotion," Tad warned us as we got up to go. Tad grabbed the DVD player and photos we had brought and we left. Bill and Jeff were about to have a serious talk as we left. I tried to ask Tad something, but he shushed me until we were outside. I didn't realize my wife was eavesdropping around the corner, but Tad did. The last thing I heard was Mr. Evans yelling into Julie's intercom to bring Sue Thomas here right now. I grinned because I knew it was going to be a good meeting. Bill was about to realize that I found his DVD in our house. When we got outside, I asked him why he let Jeff off the hook by telling him to use his own videotape against Bill. Divide and conquer, as they always say. Ted told me it's better if we don't act as a team, but everyone looks out for themselves. So if Bill tries to make a deal with us, we'll start playing against each other. I also know that Jeff and Bill are family. We still have to pretend to be the perfect family and show up at church, even though you wouldn't think so from the videos they're recording. Tad, being the smart guy he is, told me they don't want to stir up any drama in the family right now. As I walked out of the building, it hit me that this church is now where my wife cheated on me, instead of being the place where she works. It made me feel really down, with all these thoughts swirling in my head. Ted snapped me back to reality, suggesting we grab a beer before our next meeting at 4 o'clock at the tennis club. We could both definitely use a drink right about now. And I gotta ask you something, but I'm not quite sure how to bring it up yet. Ted mentioned it while we were cruising through town on our way to the tennis club. We stopped by this adorable little bar and restaurant next to the club, and Ted ordered us 2 beers. He started chatting with me about business, saying that Bill Evans might make an offer, but it'll probably be just a smidge under $1 million. I know his legal team from another company, and they're top-notch. Bill Evans is a realist too. I'll give him a call tomorrow and let him know that a lowball offer won't cut it. His client's business or family life. I'll offer to take care of it for around $3 million, or we can just forget about it completely, he told me. Next, I need to know if the offer is rejected. If that happens, I might have to drag Susan through the mud. I won't hold back on her for anything in the world. I can only do what I know will help us win the case. It's gonna be a tough job as your lawyer if it comes to that. Things could get messy and very public. I'll use every trick up my sleeve to secure our victory. You might not agree with all of it. If any juicy gossip about Sue, your marriage, or even your sex life gets out, I'll make sure people see her as the scandalous woman she really is. Ted mentioned last minute that he's thought about it, too. He said he's more mature than everyone thinks, and he's okay with it if it has to be done. But he wants to try negotiating for money first before things get out of hand. I suggested we see what Bill offers first, but if it's no good, I'll take care of everything. Hey, I'll handle the paperwork today, and I'll also reach out to my newspaper buddies and friends at 3 local news stations. They'd probably be down to get some footage or pics, even if they have to blur out the scandalous parts like they do on TV. Ted, you've always had my back and I trust your opinion. I just wish this whole drama never went down. It was more chill being clueless as a husband than getting publicly embarrassed by a cheating wife. You still have my permission to do whatever needs to be done, since I didn't start this mess. Listen, I'm about to wrap things up soon, I said to him angrily. No worries, Bobby. Let's move on and talk about what we need for the next meeting. This dude, Mr. Harry Riel, runs the Ace Tennis Club. He's the one I mentioned in that video in my office. He basically said that adults will be adults and he won't be able to help us out. Even Tony's tennis coach could get fired just for show, then rehired again next week. I looked into it and Tony is a big hit there, especially with the ladies, if you catch my drift. So, he might bring him back just to look good in front of the club members, but hey, Bobby, just remember that it's mostly dudes who pay the club fees and the ladies also come, you know. Keep that in mind, cause it's gonna be key for how you deal with Mr. RLE. He spilled the beans on how things are around here. We got there just in the nick of time and you could totally sense the tension between Mr. RLE and Tad right off the bat. Okay, enough chit-chat, you called this meeting so let's wrap it up. I want to get this done ASAP. Mr. Ryle straight up told Thad to hurry it up. Hey Mr. Ryle, this is Bob Thomas. His wife is a member of your club. We've heard that Tony Simba, your tennis instructor, was messing around with Mr. Thomas's wife. What's your plan to handle this? Tad here finished talking and now he's waiting for your response. But I know Rel will handle it and probably send Tad packing. What 2 grown-ups do in their own time is their business, not mine. So stop bothering me about it. Listen up, Harry. Let me tell you about Mr. Thomas. If you can't please your wife in bed, don't come crying to me when she cheats on your sorry ass. There are plenty of unhappy wives who go to the Ace Tennis Club. Some of them keep coming back for the special treatment my staff gives them, if you catch my drift. Harry said this, winking at me. I wanted to punch him, but Ted grabbed my wrist and told me to stay calm and follow his lead. You see, Harry, you're assuming that this. So basically, what went down outside the club wasn't fully approved by the owners, so don't go jumping to conclusions. Tad whipped out a DVD player and hit play, turning the screen towards Harry. It was like a sign that Harry was giving up and starting to spill the beans. It was obvious he didn't like what he saw on the recording. Thad started talking before Harry could even process it all, saying, Harry, you knew about this and your work buddy hooked up with Mrs. Susan Thomas, who is married and a member of your club. She even got paid by her husband, Mr. Thomas. Now he's pissed off. Tad spilled the beans to Mr. Ryle, who's usually pretty quiet. When this gets out, all the guys who pay membership fees will be wondering if their wives are getting some action at the club too. I might have to call in everyone who was in the locker room that day as witnesses. Not sure how the married ones will react to that. Listen, Tad was not pleased with you at all when he started talking to him in this fairy tale-like tone. I mean, I totally forgot about the whole privacy thing when you were filming in the locker room in the first place, Harry. But let me tell you, when I'm finished with you, your club won't be the shining star of the community anymore. And I have a feeling your bank account will be taking a hit soon too, Ted added for some extra emphasis. So, what we're looking for is a solid offer from you. Give me a call back ASAP if you're serious. If you do this quickly, it can save you a ton of trouble and money. Ted finally finished, and we could see Harry Riel thinking about what to do. Ted, you're always a real pain, but I can't argue with your reasoning. I'll give you a call tomorrow with my offer. If I pay up, all the tapes will be returned to me and never see the light of day. I'll fire Tony willingly now. If that's all you legal extortionists came for, then get the hell out. Harry Riel told us as Ted took the DVD player with a grin and turned it off. Hey, Ted told me to tell you to say hi to Tito Martinez on his way out of the room. Harry just told him to go to hell. Tad was cracking up all the way back to the parking lot. It was a blast. Now we're just waiting for some suggestions, Tad said as we headed to his house for a yummy home-cooked meal. By the end of the week, Bill Evans had offered just under $2. So, get this, Jeff Davis got the boot after he stupidly handed over all his videotapes to Bill Evans and had nothing left to save his ass. Bill just canned him without a second thought. Poor old Jeff was left high and dry. I decided to track down the 2 idiots who were with my wife the night I busted her with Jeff. Turns out, they were 2 of Jeff's big clients. They didn't want any of that drama getting out, so they each offered me $1 million to keep quiet. But Harry Ryle, he didn't want to play ball. He basically told us to take him to court if we had a problem. What a piece of work. So, we totally screwed him over and he ended up losing $3 million. Once we were finished with him, he was left questioning everyone at the club and ended up losing half of his members. He had no choice but to give up the rest. He probably thought he could get away with it, but the judge was not happy with the videos from the private locker rooms. And he definitely didn't approve of people messing around with other people's wives. I even gave Sue a house and a car, just like she wanted, even though I didn't have to pay her a cent in child support. I only had to see her twice in court, and both times I called her a bitch. Back in the day, I used to say hi to her and she'd start crying. I always wondered why she only started crying now, and not before she brought all this drama into my life. It was the worst time ever, even though I was making more money and being smart by following Ted's advice. The pain still lingers, and I carry it with me to this day. All the memories of that awful year came flooding back in an instant. I didn't even realize someone was talking to me until I snapped out of my flashback nightmare and heard the restaurant manager asking if I was okay. Yo, I was just standing there lost in memories for a bit. I shook my head to snap out of it and went back to the restaurant. Sorry, I was just lost in my thoughts about some old problem I had. When I saw the party I came to see, I thanked them again. I mentioned it to the manager, and he gave me that weird look people give when they think an old person is losing it. I went straight to my ex-wife's table. I think I caught her off guard with the surprise. When I was with Susan, I was chubby with long hair and a beard. I used my old baseball injury as an excuse to take it easy on my sore knee. But really, I just got comfortable with my life and my wife. Now, I've cut my hair short, slimmed down from working out, and fixed my knee with the money I got from Jeff and Bill's company. My suits are fancy now and I always try to look good in public. I decided to be the first to say it, you look fantastic today. Damn, you're looking fine, I said, trying to get her to talk. I still knew how to push her buttons, and I did it on purpose. My name is Susan, Bobby. Why don't you call me by my name? She answered me back in anger, hey, I didn't tell you your name. You know who did. I just think it's appropriate. I told you 3 years ago that you broke my heart, and I will always refer to you by that name. I told her about this when the guy next to her started to protest and get up from his seat. Sue pushed him back and told him, sit down. Hey, don't make a scene, she sobbed a bit and her makeup started to smudge. Her boyfriend told her to go touch up her makeup and get her pretty face back in order. He said, I'll handle this mess for you. With those words, she got up, looked me straight in the eyes, and I returned the gaze. In that one look, I must have shown all the pain I had been holding onto for the past 3 years. She started crying even harder. I was surprised that she still had any feelings for me, or maybe she was still feeling guilty. I think it was a mix of both. I expect you to be gone when I get back. She came back to me, crying her eyes out. I finally noticed the huge rock on her finger as she wiped her tears and headed to the bathroom. You must be Bob Thomas, Sue's ex-husband, he said with a sneer. Yep, and you must be the new trophy wife, I replied. His face turned red with anger. I'm Sue's CFO, and if I were you, I'd cut it out with the insults. He tried to sound tough, but I could tell he didn't want any drama. I had him shook. Hey, I need to chat with you one-on-one. I've got 3 questions for you, and after that, I'll vanish from your life for good. I mentioned this to him, and it made him look confused. I've been in your position before, and I just didn't want anyone else to go through what I did. I suppose the rumors have reached you that I was a terrible husband who mistreated or cheated on her. I asked him about it, and it seems like that's exactly what she told him. I'm not here to defend myself to you. Honestly, I don't think there's anything good to say. I just wanted to know if Sarah still throws her Avon parties at her place on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I heard Sue helps Sarah sell decorations at her parties on Mondays and Wednesdays. Do you remember that? Fine. Does she still play tennis on Saturdays? Sue plays tennis with a racket on Sundays. Man, you have a terrible memory from being married to her for so long, he said triumphantly. Fine. Last question. Have you ever looked under the bottom drawer? The dresser in your living room. I was like, why should I even do this? He was all like, nah, don't do it. The 3 questions I asked were why we're not together anymore. I still got all the divorce papers and stuff in my office, legal crap, emails from Sarah and whatnot, and tons of videotapes. I've been lugging this stuff around for like 3 years, so I figured you should have it. I pulled out this old, crumpled piece of paper from my wallet and was like, this is what the lawyer wrote to Sarah when she asked how to get rid of it. Me before I found out that was cheating on me, I didn't really know her. But after reading that letter, I probably still don't. It's all about you, I said, handing him the paper. However, I knew Sue really well and knew that she was a creature of habit. She always did things the same way, every time. It drives me crazy sometimes. I also had a feeling that just because she had a new man, she would still stick to her old ways. He seemed unsure about taking the paper, but I think curiosity got the best of him. He leaned over and opened the email. I've been carrying it around for the past 3 years and every now and then I've read it again, trying to make sure no woman will ever say those things about me again. Out of all the stuff I've learned from all those tapes and whatnot, this email really hit me the hardest. I guess that's why I still keep it with me. It's the same email I talked about earlier in my story. Peter read the letter slowly and then set it down on the table. He grabbed a pen, scribbled a quick note on it, and I was surprised when he left the restaurant without even a goodbye or a thank you. He had a totally blank expression on his face. I peeked at the email he was writing in his phone. I'll be back at the house soon, so just hang tight. I'll give you a call in 15 minutes. Just wait here for me. I have a weird feeling that I need to check under the bottom drawer of my dresser in the living room. I'll be quick, Peter. I could tell he was starting to understand, even if he didn't like it. I had a feeling I was getting close to the truth. 3 things. That email was the final straw and he had to see it for himself. I left a note on Sue's table before leaving. There was no way I was gonna sit in that restaurant with anyone tonight. I went back to the lobby and called my client. They said they were running late and were cool with rescheduling the meeting. Just before I left, I took one last look at Sue's table. Sue came back to the table and was looking around for Peter. She sat down and checked her old email and Peter's note below. Her face turned pale as a ghost. So, she saw her old email and read what Peter had sent her. The last time I saw my wife, she was bawling her eyes out in the restaurant and everyone was staring at her. I felt bad for her, but at the same time, I didn't really care. That was the last time I saw her. I still wonder if Peter found something under the dresser drawer. Sue was crying when she told me he could. Make sure to subscribe to our channel so your partner doesn't cheat on you. And be sure to listen to the next story, 'cause this one ain't worth it. If you're under 18, don't even try to listen to the next one. It's not for you.